Hey everyone, welcome back to Manga Minute. I'm thrilled to share my latest recap video with you. If you missed the previous one, no worries, just take a quick peek in the description below for the link. Now, let's dive right in and enjoy.
Doyagang's group, weary from their travels, arrived at the nearest town and decided to take a brief respite. Seeking comfort in the simple pleasures of a meal, they found a modest restaurant and settled down to eat. The aroma of food filled the air as the waiter approached their table, laden with steaming dishes, signaling the beginning of their much-needed break. As the food was placed before them, Sun Yakran's eyes gleamed with excitement, a rare spark in her usually composed demeanor. It had been a long time since she'd encountered something like this, and the sight of the dishes stirred a deep sense of satisfaction within her. Her thoughts lingered on Poong Cheon, the familiar taste she had been craving, and it seemed that the place had finally begun to mature its culinary offerings to her liking. However, Sun Yakran's enthusiasm quickly shifted to suspicion as she inspected the portions laid out before her. A sharp, discerning glance flickered towards the waiter, her mind racing with thoughts of fairness. She had a keen eye for detail, and it was not in her nature to overlook even the slightest imbalance. Was the waiter treating them fairly, or had the other patrons been served more generously? Seated across from Sun Yakran, Doyagang's gaze drifted toward a group of martial artists not far from their table. The energy in the room subtly shifted as he studied them, his mind already whirring with thoughts. Their presence piqued his interest, and he discreetly signaled to the waiter for more information. The response came quickly, and with it, Doyagang's mind began to formulate a plan. These warriors were from the Tiger Cloud sect, a group renowned for their martial prowess. They carried an aura of quiet intimidation, but Doyagang saw an opportunity rather than a threat. He had no intention of provoking them directly, not yet, but the wheels in his mind turned as he considered how useful they could be to his advantage. The mention of their skill in martial arts sparked a scheme. If they were as formidable as their reputation suggested, they could serve as the perfect counterbalance to Poong Cheon. Doyagang's eyes darkened with thought as he calculated his next move. Injuring Poong Cheon with soul strength was just the beginning. Once he had weakened his guard, he would incite the Tiger Cloud sect, cleverly shifting the blame onto Poong Cheon. It was a cunning strategy, one that would set the two sides against each other, creating the perfect distraction for Doyagang to make his escape amidst the ensuing chaos. With the plan taking shape in his mind, Doyagang remained calm and composed, the hint of knowing smile playing on his lips. Doyagang spoke with a tinge of regret, reflecting on the destructive power of his soul strength. The force of his blade was capable of shattering stone, and yet, he considered Poong Cheon's resilience. Poong Cheon, strong as ever, would surely recover quickly from the strike. With his mind set, Doyagang covertly slipped his blade beneath his sleeve, eyeing his target carefully. Poong Cheon was defenseless, engrossed in his meal, completely unaware of what was about to transpire. Seizing the moment, Doyagang swung the blade in a swift, decisive motion. But in the instant after the strike, his expectations shattered. The blade, which should have torn through Poong Cheon effortlessly, barely made a dent. Doyagang's eyes widened in disbelief, his heart pounding as shock gripped him. His jaw dropped as the realization hit. Poong Cheon's body had withstood the attack, and not just withstood it, but emerged unscathed. Panic surged through Doyagang's mind. This was not how things were supposed to unfold. What in the world was wrong with Poong Cheon's body? Before Doyagang could process his failure, Poong Cheon turned his head, his expression dark and ominous. The weight of the situation pressed down on Doyagang, sweat forming on his brow as dread set in. The plan had backfired, and now, under Poong Cheon's piercing gaze, Doyagang muttered under his breath, acknowledging the grave mistake he had made. But Poong Cheon's words, calm yet grim, gave Doyagang an unexpected lifeline. Seizing the moment, Doyagang quickly shifted gears, his mind racing to salvage the situation. Without hesitation, he pointed towards the Tiger Cloud sect martial artists, improvising a new angle to his failed plot. Feigning anger, he lashed out, redirecting the blame onto the warriors seated nearby. His outburst was dramatic, filled with exaggerated frustration as he demanded action against them. He needed a distraction, anything to turn Poong Cheon's attention away from the failed attack and toward a new target. As Doyagang's words rang through the restaurant, the Tiger Cloud sect martial artists rose from their seats, their expressions hardened with indignation. They were not ones to let a slight pass easily, and the provocation from Doyagang had reached its mark. The tension between the two groups thickened as the air crackled with the imminent threat of violence. Poong Cheon, now standing, heard Doyagang's exaggerated demands and took them to heart. The use of soul strength had caught his attention, and in his mind, it could only mean that Doyagang's fury was boundless. His loyalty unwavering, Poong Cheon accepted the command without hesitation, ready to act on the perceived insult. Doyagang, with a glint of malice in his eyes, continued to stoke the flames, urging Poong Cheon to educate the Tiger Cloud sect members. His voice was sharp, calculated, designed to provoke both sides into action. His plan to use Poong Cheon as a weapon against the martial artists was now in full swing with no turning back. He needed the chaos to escalate, to mask his earlier failure and divert attention. Without delay, the Tiger Cloud sect members, fueled by anger, rushed toward Poong Cheon in unison. Their movements were quick and coordinated, a testament to their training, but they were up against a force far greater than they had anticipated. Poong Cheon, a seasoned martial artist, stood unshaken. Even outnumbered, he remained calm, assessing their strikes with cold precision. Their attacks came at him relentlessly, but he evaded them with ease, his body moving like a fluid force among them. With nothing more than his bare hands, Poong Cheon countered their assaults. Each blow he delivered was calculated, swift, and devastating. The martial artists fell before him one by one, their strength no match for his overwhelming skill. What had begun as an attempt to confront him turned into a display of utter domination. Despite their best efforts, the Tiger Cloud sect members were no match for Poong Cheon's prowess. Their pride shattered alongside their defeat. Doyagang watched from the sidelines, satisfied that his plan had taken root. The Tiger Cloud sect was being handled, and for now, Poong Cheon's loyalty was firmly under his control. The scene unfolded exactly as he had intended: turmoil, distraction, and an opening for him to slip away if needed. As the chaos of the fight raged behind him, Doyagang saw his opportunity and made his move. His eyes flickered with determination as he murmured to himself, slipping out of the restaurant unnoticed. His heart raced as his feet hit the ground, moving swiftly through the narrow streets, leaving the confrontation behind. The sound of clashing fists and bodies falling to the floor faded into the background as Doyagang ran with all his might. The Tiger Cloud sect, caught in the fight with Poong Cheon, had served their purpose perfectly. Doyagang smirked, thoughts of their sacrifice running through his mind. They had unknowingly provided him with the perfect distraction. He pushed himself harder, feeling the burn in his muscles as he rushed toward the city gate. Freedom lay just ahead, a tantalizing prospect. He knew he would have to exhaust every bit of his inner strength to ensure his escape, but it would all be worth it if he could just reach the gate and flee. As the gate came into view, a wave of relief washed over him. The bright future he had envisioned now seemed within reach. The world beyond the walls beckoned him with the promise of freedom, and he pushed his body to its limits. The outer gate was just ahead. He could almost taste his victory, feel the sweet air of freedom. But just as his hand reached out, ready to grasp the future he had been running toward, a shadow appeared behind him. It was Poong Cheon. Doyagang's heart sank, terror freezing his body mid-stride. How had Poong Cheon reached him so quickly? His mind raced in disbelief, unable to comprehend how his loyal guard had managed to catch up so effortlessly. His breath hitched as he turned, seeing Poong Cheon's composed figure standing behind him, his expression calm yet stern. Poong Cheon's words echoed in Doyagang's ears, as if mocking his attempted escape. Doyagang, startled beyond belief, could barely muster a response, shock gripping him at the realization that his plan had crumbled before his very eyes. His escape had failed, and there was no way out now. Poong Cheon, unwavering in his loyalty, stood firm. The matter with the Tiger Cloud sect had been resolved, and now, it was time to return to Doyagang's side. There would be no running away, no bright future just beyond the gate. In the yard of the restaurant, the scene had shifted dramatically. The Tiger Cloud sect martial artists, once defiant and proud, now kneeled deeply before Doyagang, their faces pressed to the ground. Their voices trembled as they begged for forgiveness, desperately seeking to appease the powerful figure before them. Their earlier defiance had vanished, replaced by groveling submission as they proclaimed their loyalty and sought mercy. Poong Cheon, standing tall beside them, looked down upon the kneeling warriors with pride. His voice brimmed with confidence as he relayed the situation to Doyegang, highlighting how the martial artists had been brought to their knees, begging for the Great One's forgiveness. To Poong Cheon, it was a victory, proof of his own strength and of Doyegang's commanding presence. But for Doyegang, the sight of the Tiger Cloud sect groveling before him only fueled his rage. His mind raced with frustration and disappointment. These warriors, whom he had counted on to buy him precious time, had utterly failed him. The scene of them kneeling, muttering their shallow apologies, felt like a betrayal. They had not only failed to delay Poong Cheon, but now returned merely to shout empty praise. Anger seethed within Doyegang as he approached the kneeling group. His thoughts boiled over as he muttered bitterly to himself, cursing the Tiger Cloud sect for their incompetence. They had let him down when he needed them most, and now, standing before him, they were nothing more than a pitiful reminder of his failed escape. Without a word, Doyegang reached out, grabbing one of the warriors by the head. His grip was firm, fueled by his mounting rage. In one swift motion, he slammed the martial artist to the ground with force, venting his frustration upon the helpless figure. Poong Cheon, watching the display with admiration, laughed heartily. To him, this was proof of Doyegang's authority, his strength in not only leading but also in punishing those who failed him. Poong Cheon's voice boomed with pride as he exclaimed, praising Doyegang's ruthlessness. To him, it was a testament to his lord's power, another reason to follow him with unwavering loyalty. Inside the carriage, Doyegang sat in quiet frustration, his mind racing with the weight of his failed attempts to flee. He replayed each moment in his mind, the elite warriors of the demonic cult, his powerful soul strength dagger. None of it had made a difference. Every effort had crumbled against the immovable force that was Poong Cheon. A sense of helplessness crept into his thoughts. Was it truly impossible to escape Poong Cheon's grasp? The thought gnawed at him, darkening his mood further as the road stretched out before them. Sitting across from him, Sun Yakran communicated through telepathy, her voice slipping into Doyegang's mind like a whisper. Her question was sharp, cutting through his brooding thoughts. Had he really planned to kill Poong Cheon? Doyegang's response followed quickly, also through their shared telepathic link. He hadn't aimed for Poong Cheon's vital points, but it hardly mattered. The dagger hadn't even pierced his skin. Sun Yakran, ever practical, suggested that perhaps the dagger itself was to blame. Her tone carried a hint of doubt, as though questioning the effectiveness of the weapon. In response, Doyegang unsheathed the dagger, its edge glinting in the dim light of the carriage. With a swift motion, he sliced through the wooden curtains behind him effortlessly, the blade cutting cleanly through the material. The dagger was far from dull. Sun Yakran's eyes widened in surprise, a spark of disbelief flickering in her gaze. If the dagger was sharp and Poong Cheon had still withstood the blow, what did that say about the man himself? The possibility that Poong Cheon was invincible unsettled her. She contemplated the sheer power Doyegang must command to have someone as formidable as Poong Cheon under his control. Her thoughts lingered on Doyegang's strength, marveling at the fact that, despite everything, he still retained authority over such a terrifying subordinate. Doyegang's frustration boiled over, and he snapped, demanding to know what Sun Yakran was hinting at. His voice, though sharp, carried the underlying desperation of a man who had exhausted every option. He was trapped in an endless cycle of failed attempts to escape the looming presence of Poong Cheon, and Sun Yakran's cryptic demeanor only added to his growing confusion. Sun Yakran smirked, a playful glint in her eyes as she calmly observed his growing impatience. She understood exactly what Doyegang wanted: freedom from the iron grip of his seemingly invincible subordinate. Her lips curled in amusement, sensing the opportunity to offer something he so desperately desired. With a calculated air, she made her proposition, offering him the help he so craved, though her true motives remained veiled in mystery. Taken aback, he couldn't hide his confusion. How could she possibly help? Every attempt he had made, every ounce of strength and planning, had been for nothing. He couldn't comprehend what trick Sun Yakran had up her sleeve. His eyes narrowed as he tried to understand her intentions. In response, Sun Yakran revealed a small, golden pill, lifting it between her fingers with a sly smile. She displayed it before Doyegang, her expression teasing, as if holding the answer to his deepest wish right in the palm of her hand. The golden pill gleamed in the dim light of the carriage, its surface smooth and pristine, radiating an air of mystery and power. Her tone light but laced with intrigue, she presented her offer with playful confidence. This wasn't just any solution, it was something special, something that could change everything if Doyegang was willing to take the risk. She framed it like a game, an invitation to play with this curious object. The question hung in the air between them, daring Doyegang to consider her offer. For a moment, the weight of the decision pressed down on him. The uncertainty gnawed at him. Was this truly the answer, or just another gamble in the twisted game of survival he found himself in?